Good morning everyone, today we're checking out a brand new video from Popcross Studios of turning starter Pokemon into SCPs. On the thumbnail, the only one I could immediately tell, and the only one that was actually shown, was Chikorita, the grass type starter from Gen 2, that's Johto, i.e. Gold and Silver, along with Crystal and the remakes Heart Gold and Soul Silver. Let's hop in and see who else gets the treatment.
After doing Inside Out Emotions as SCPs last week, I was reminded how much I love doing just classic Dresden-narrated SCP episodes, and how the most fun ones to do are generally taking something really cute and making it kind of freaky looking. So I thought I would both return to one of my favorite series from the history of this channel, Pokemon as SCPs, but also specifically use some particularly cute Pokemon in starter Pokemon, and specifically starting with the ones that are going to be the starters for the new Pokemon ZA games. That's right, I said Z, because that's how we say that letter up here in the Great White North. Oh, don't you know, bud? That's what I'm talking about. Anyway, starter Pokemon SCPs. Let's go. Hit like.
I'll be honest, I didn't realize he was Canadian.
Didn't
even see a hint.
But either way, enjoy the show.
Goody. I guess I could make a joke saying, hey, he is so nice, so it makes sense. Anyway, starting off with my personal favorite, Totodile.
Good evening, everyone. That
is the water starter from Gen 2 as well.
Most of you know by now, I am Professor Dresden Oakland.
What up, Dres?
And today I will be discussing specific entities within the subcategory SCP-P, which were considered for a now defunct program called Project Red, though for some reason some of the paperwork on this project also had it labeled as Project Green. Please disregard this, as the two are the same.
Okay, you see, the reason that is because in the first game, well, technically, I think it was in the remake of Gen 1, you could choose to play as a boy or a girl, and the default names were Red and Green, along with those also being like the two primary colors that were used to describe Gen 1. You know, Fire Red was originally red, and Leaf Green was, well, green.
Experiment.
Ta-da!
It was once considered that since some of the entities within the subcategory SCP-P had shown a proclivity to make bonds with humans that spent a fair amount of time with them, certain breeds could be trained to assist operatives on dangerous field missions. The idea originally spawned after seeing how the irksome cryptozoologist, Satoshi Matsumoto, had managed to make a bond with previously discussed entity, SCP-P025, that was so strong, the creature would often obey his commands and attack any personnel we sent to attempt to take the entity from him. While this project fell through and was never completed for several reasons, most of the entities considered for it are still contained in various sites of the Foundation. One entity considered was item number SCP-P158. Object class, safe. Special containment procedures. The entity is to be housed in a shared special...
One thing I actually do like when he's making the SCP Pokemon is that the number is actually the Dex number in the national Dex. Like SCP P-158, that is Totodile.
Specialized aquatic habitat designated site Cerulean. Entities of this type may remain contained in such a place until they go through their second metamorphic period, in which they take on their final form and full size. At this point, they must be transferred to more isolated housing for the safety of other entities. Description: P158 is a 2-foot-tall blue bipedal crocodilian creature. It has the ability to store water in its stomach and project it at a rapid rate, as many aquatic SCP
It's also able to regrow teeth really damn fast.
P entities can, which is at times a danger to those around it, but is not nearly as severe a threat as the entity's powerful jaws. We first acquired one of these entities in captivity after a full-grown female version of it in its final state of metamorphosis, designated separately as SCP-P160, laid 6 eggs. We found that while the full-grown entities can be incredibly dangerous and hostile towards personnel, the young were quite docile and even playful with operatives handling them. They seemed like perfect candidates for Project Red. One of the operatives involved in the project, Professor Elmsworth, allowed a field operative to take one of these young and try to bond with it and train it.
Oh yeah, y'all probably wouldn't get that immediately. In the Pokemon series, all the professors are named after trees, and the professor of Gen 2 is known as Professor Elm.
To work alongside her. She was having a fairly easy time in her first few weeks, but as the creature aged, it began revealing an unfortunate quirk of these entities. They have a strong desire to bite almost anything they see.
Yeah.
Thankfully, most entities in containment with them are resilient enough and have strong enough defensive and offensive capabilities to urge the creatures away, but our field operative was not so endowed protection-wise. The entity may very well have been acting playfully when it did so, but the creature bit its partner operative's elbow and was so forceful that it nearly tore through her arm in a single bite. Worse still, it was then sent into a ravenous state in which it seemed to be craving her very flesh, as if having a taste for human blood made it desperate for more. It then deliberately took her arm the rest of the way off and consumed what it had taken.
Ooh,
the entity soon after moved into its next stage of metamorphosis and was put into isolated containment. For obvious
Damn, a Totodile ate an arm and evolved into a Croconaw.
reasons, these creatures were removed from consideration for Project Red, well before its cancellation.
You know, even with that bit of blood, I still find it cute. I'd hug it and risk my life.
The following entity was studied in containment for 3
Chikorita,
years prior to being considered for Project Red, and it was deemed much more likely to be a success than others due to its docile nature. But even a docile creature will not necessarily be complacent to subjugation for long. Item number SCP-P152. Object Class: Safe. Special Containment Procedures. P152 is housed in the same building as P158, but in a separate sector dubbed Site Celadon, where other similar entities are housed.
Yeah, so like I said before, this is the one that he has on the thumbnail, but in all honesty, this is the most ugly one. And I'm not mean that to be like rude or anything, like he draws amazingly, but this Chikorita is so ugly, I wouldn't even put that in my salad.
Approaching the entity must be done so cautiously if direct interaction is necessary, but elsewise, no special precautions need be taken when interacting with these creatures, so long as you do not endeavor to force them into combat situations. That is not a mistake we will make again. Description: P152 is a quadrupedal green entity with thorn-like protrusions emanating from its neck and an aromatic leaf stemming from the top of its head. It has a very flat face, essentially appearing to have no head at all, just facial features emerging from its neck. While the leaf may appear to be just that, a common leaf, it is actually incredibly sharp and as durable as steel. P152 can even spin its neck and whip the leaf off its head to assault any who threaten it. Thankfully, it
the move Razor Leaf
never uses such an ability in containment because, as previously mentioned, it is quite docile and pleasant when left to be. The scent that emerges from its leaf can change depending on the creature's diet and how much time in the sun it is provided, but regardless of how it changes, it is always pleasant to inhale. The thorn-like protrusions on its neck are also able to be utilized as a weapon, or simply as a way for the entity to interact with its environment, as they can stretch out of its neck on the end of long vine-like appendages that it can control like a common monkey may use its tail. Professor Elmsworth was certain, as many were, that P152 would be a perfect candidate for Project Red, due to its combat capabilities paired with its relaxed demeanor. Sadly, its field operative partner suffered a worse fate than P158's partner. He spent enough time with his P152 entity that he felt it was ready to be taken into the field to help him track down another entity we'd been tracking in the oak woodlands of southwestern British Columbia. It was a 6-foot-tall brown bipedal stag beetle-like entity, P127.
And the Pinsir
field op was able to locate it with the aid.
Wait, why would you take a grass type to fight a bug type? Oh, you were just asking for trouble.
Unfortunately, while still hiding from the entity, the operative attempted to command his creature to go out and restrain it. P-152 refused. It seemed the creature had no intent on fighting. He did all he could to force the creature into battle, but it consistently refused. Growing concerned the entity may escape, he took a drastic measure and tossed P-152 out before the creature. P-127 saw the operative's small
You done messed up.
creature and approached with violent intent. To defend itself, and seemingly out of a sense of spite, the entity used its vines to grab the field operative and hold him in the air between itself and the large entity. The operative struggled and was unable to escape,
You did this to yourself,
resulting
man.
in P-127 slicing him in half with a single bite of its massive pincers.
Oh,
P-152 was found later sunbathing in the area and was brought back into containment. Anytime someone attempted to give it a command later, the creature would lash them with its vines. In fact, as if having a hive mind or having been warned by the one in Project Red, all other versions of P-152 in containment thereafter refused to follow any direct commands.
Oh.
Needless to say, they too were removed from consideration.
That is kind of impressive. Adding in that hive mind element, I mean. I guess they all plants, kind of, so makes sense in a way.
Potential operatives, if hearing tales of these unfortunate incidents is setting your mind in a state of dis-ease, you may want to consider purchasing the Popcross Studios Demons coloring book. Contained within are creatures mostly stemming from Dimension D667, but there are also some entities within that the Foundation has studied, as well as creatures that other universes' versions of the Foundation has attempted to contain. Coloring these may both relax you and provide a sort of exposure therapy to you, so that if you interact with or study these creatures or creatures like them in your budding SCP Foundation career, you will have grown used to seeing them and be less frightened. For a less terrifying coloring experience, the Dragon's coloring book is available as well. But if you feel comfortable coloring more menacing creatures...
Would you like monsters or monsters? We have both, just in 2 different flavors.
The Demon's coloring book may be perfect for you. Both books will be linked in the description. Now let us return to the canonical version of me for more SCP files.
Here we go.
Item number SCP-P498. Object class, safe. Special containment procedure.
The firefighting is started from Unova, which I believe is Gen 5.
P498 entities must be housed in containment only with others of their kind, or with entities proven to be unharmed by flames and high temperatures. Their containment is to be made up of a mud floor for the entities to entertain themselves and keep them from growing violent. Flame-proof suits must be worn by those entering containment with these entities. Description: P498 is a 1-foot-tall quadrupedal orange swine-like creature. It has largely brown and orange fur and flesh. These creatures are extremely fire-resistant and are able to project a flaming magma-like mucus from their nostrils that burns at up to 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah, instead of them breathing fire, they kind of snot fire in a way. I mean, it's interesting. It's an interesting take on the classic fire breathing. It's just strange because you think of that and then you imagine the pain.
As the field operative who attempted to tame one of these creatures learned, if this mucus sticks to you, it is very difficult to get off before it causes serious, life-threatening burns.
Oh, well, no duh.
These creatures have a love of berries. When given these, they will use the heat from their nostrils to roast the berries, then devour them. It was believed one of these entities could be tamed more easily using these snacks as a reward for good behavior and following directives. This tactic worked in the first months of attempting to tame the creature, during which time its partnered operative was taking the precaution of wearing a flame-resistant suit at all times around the entity. Unfortunately, he grew comfortable enough to remove this, only for the creature to reach an age where it became more rebellious and demanding. P498's operative was once withholding a large bag of berries, trying to get the entity to shoot flaming projectiles at a series of targets to improve its accuracy with its flaming mucus. The entity grew frustrated and started leaping onto its partner to try and take the snacks. He pushed it back gently, but eventually, P498 grew impatient enough that it fired its scorching mucus onto the operative's arm, forcing him to drop the berries and leaving him helplessly trying to attempt to put out the flames. only managing to make more of his body catch fire before another operative came with a fire extinguisher to put him out. Even with the flames doused, the
How bad was he burned after that?
mucus was still incredibly hot and continued to do further damage to his arm.
Oh,
Another
yeah, that's
entity
bad.
removed from the program, and unfortunately, higher-ranking operatives did not take these incidents as enough of a pattern to shut the program down yet.
Oh, jeez. I wonder what actually made them have to shut it down. Guess we'll eventually find out.
Well, there were many other
Huh, surprise. I wasn't expecting to see Snivy here.
incidents before cancellation of the
This is the grass starter from Unova as well, like Tech did.
program was finalized. I will conclude with a less violent, though still undesirable result. Item number SCP-P495. Object Class, Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. P495 is to be housed in either a standard containment cell or in a more open containment, such as Site Celadon, though it is to be noted that these creatures will do their best to avoid most other entities when put in containment with them. They are not as social as some others in the SCP-P category and may thrive more in isolation. Those who enter its containment are to
Yeah, Snivy is very, egotistical.
be briefed on
Of
its
itself.
abilities and mannerisms to ensure they are not tricked into letting the entity out of its containment. Description: P495 is a 2-foot-tall bipedal reptilian creature with a head resembling a green vine snake. While it technically has arms, it will more commonly use vines that emerge from its neck, similar to P152, to handle objects in its environment and to aid with traversal. These creatures are highly intelligent, and the first and only one used in Project Red was being tamed by Professor June Piper, who believed these entities were the key
Juniper.
to making the program work due to their intelligence. Her specific P495 very quickly proved able and willing to follow every command given. It trained with its vines and demonstrated the ability to restrain 6 D-class personnel at once.
Okay,
Despite being
impressive.
unable to speak, it was also able to effectively communicate to Professor Piper how much exposure to sunlight enhances the creature's endurance and resilience, so she ensured it was given much more time in sun-exposed containment. The professor was incredibly careful and trained her entity far longer than others had without incident before attempting to take the entity out into the field. When she finally felt it was ready, she drove the creature off with her to a forest where she was seeking an entity that had breached containment. A bizarre entity that essentially looks like a large coconut tree with legs. P103.
Executor?
And the second the professor let her entity out of the vehicle to begin the
Is that regular Executor from Kanto, or is that a Lowland Executor?
hunt, P495 lashed its vines onto a nearby tree and flung itself into the canopy, disappearing. It seems, due to the creature's elevated level of intelligence, it was able to deduce that those in its same program who obeyed commands long enough were taken out of the facility. It was essentially biding its time.
Oh, it ran. It escaped.
Until it was able to make its great escape. We have yet been able to relocate the creature, and Professor Piper's assertion that intelligent creatures would make the best partners was debunked. While there were other incidents I may be able to discuss later, that is all for today. My previous lecture on the physical manifestation emotional entities was recorded, as all my lectures are, and is available to those who missed it.
Wow.
Please find it with the provided link, as well as other past lectures. But for now, thank you for your time, and good night.
3 animalistic ones that did have some intelligence, and then one really smart one that was like, fuck you, I'm out.
If you enjoyed this, you might want to go back to my 10, sort of 11 previous Pokemon as SCPs episodes, or any other number of things I've turned into SCPs in the past. Or you might want to check out one of my more recent original series, like Fear of the Demon Hunters, that has lots of creepy designs like these SCPs in it, or even the Trismegistus Academy, in which Dresden's going to play a pretty big role in an upcoming episode. But besides that, that's all for today, except of course for ending this video on some kind of positive or inspiring note. And the thought I want to leave people with today is a nice simple quote from Inky Johnson, who said, champion is built on the other side of I don't feel like it. You know what that means. I don't think I need to explain it further. I hope that's inspiring. I love you all, and I'll see you all in the next episode on Friday. Goodbye.
Alright everyone, that's going to be the end of today's video, and I hope you all enjoyed this. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more. A link to the original will be in the description below, and I'll see all of y'all next time when we flick back on. Till then, this is Fox, signing out. Peace.